Breaking on 4 News Now, the Idaho man accused of killing 4 of his neighbors pleads not guilty when his trial is expected to begin. And the battle for cameras in the courtroom. Why the lawyers for the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students say it will prevent him from having a fair trial.
And nothing but sunshine across the inland Northwest. I'll let you know how long this beautiful weather is going to last and when you can expect the weather to heat up in your first alert forecast. You're watching 4 News Now at 6.
2 quadruple murder suspects, Bryan Kohberger and Major John Kaler, back in court today. Kaler pleading not guilty to murdering his neighbors, including a 16 and 8-year-old, back in June, while Kohberger's attorneys are arguing to ban cameras in the courtroom. He's accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home in Moscow. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kirsten O'Connor. We have team coverage tonight on both of these cases. We begin with Marissa Rio explaining why Kohberger's legal team wants cameras out of the courtroom.
Kohberger's attorneys and the state of Idaho want the judge to ban cameras in the courtroom. But the Media Coalition, which includes 4 News Now, argues that it's in the court's best interest to have cameras in the courtroom because it allows the public to see exactly what's happening in real time. The judge did have some concerns. Kohberger's attorneys argue that their main concern regarding media access is that it dehumanizes their client and sensationalizes the case.
Our position is that the court, I think, understands our concerns about turning this into a spectacle, the way that may prejudice the public against our client.
The state of Idaho agrees with the ban, arguing that it is the safest way to ensure a fair and impartial trial for all parties involved. A representative for the Media Coalition says they are willing to work with the court, but want continued access.
You know, the arguments that we made and the pleadings were that, look, the members of the media, the pool camera folks are willing to work with the court to make sure that they're giving the court as much as much control over those proceedings and making sure that the members of the media are as respectful as the court wants and needs them to be.
The judge says he has concerns not with the cameramen, but with what the public does with the footage once it is posted.
It can tilt. It can tilt a case one way or the other. If the media is, trying the case in the media.
The judge ended the trial by saying he is going to try to do the right thing for both the public and the parties involved. The judge says he hopes he sent a clear message to the media. Have patience and be respectful. We'll keep you updated on our website at KXLY.com. Reporting in Moscow, Marissa Rio, 4 News Now.
Marissa, thank you. Now turning to the quadruple homicide out of Kellogg that took place in June. According to court documents, Major John Kaler told police he, quote, snapped and killed his 4 neighbors after hearing the 18-year-old son, Devin Smith, exposed himself to Kaler's young daughter. Natalie Grant was in Shoshone County today, where Kaler entered not guilty pleas.
Now, earlier this morning, Major John Kaler walked from the Shoshone County Jail across the street, down this sidewalk, and up the stairs here into the courthouse for his arraignment, where he pled not guilty to all 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, meaning this case is headed to trial. It was a quick court appearance lasting less than 20 minutes. Kaler was escorted into the courtroom after walking from the jail wearing chains and a bulletproof vest. When things got underway, Kaler was read his options and charges. In the end, pleading not guilty on all counts, despite court documents saying he admitted to law enforcement the night of the murders that he snapped and killed all 4 victims. If convicted, Kaler faces a maximum sentence of life in prison and more than $200,000. The prosecution has said they are not seeking the death penalty in this case. Now, once the not guilty pleas were entered, Judge Duggan moved on to the challenges to the gag order, which was put in place back in June. A media group has motioned to intervene, hoping to eventually dismiss that order. Judge Duggan said that she will issue a written ruling on the intervention in the next coming days. Then the topic of dismissing the order will be discussed. Now, the judge set Kaler's trial to begin early next year on January 9th with no objections from either side on that date. Of course, we'll bring you updates as this case develops both on air and online at KXLY.com. Reporting in Shoshone County, Natalie Grant, 4 News Now.
Now to breaking news out of 5 Mile Prairie in Spokane County. Firefighters still working to put out a brush fire started by some kind of heavy equipment or a vehicle on Hawthorne Road. The fire spread to a field and smoke could be seen from different parts of Spokane right around 4:30 this afternoon. Fire crews say that they are making good progress on putting this out. Bright blue skies across much of the inland Northwest. But how long is this beautiful weather going to last? Chief Meteorologist Chris Crocker has your first alert forecast.
We do have more sunny weather ahead, but we're also going to be warming things up, feeling more like summer than fall. And your 4 things to know. Cool, clear nights. We're going to be dropping down into the 40s and lower 50s tonight, even 30s in some locations. Warm, sunny days, but then things really warm up. We'll be in the 80s Friday through Sunday with a cool down coming next week. Temperatures right now around the region have been topping out just a little above average at 75 in Spokane, 74 in Coeur d'Alene, 81 right now in Omak, 79 in Lewiston, right around the Spokane area. It's 80 at 9 Mile, but 70s elsewhere. Now with the clear skies, light winds, very dry air, these temperatures are dropping quickly, and by tomorrow morning we're going to be down in the 40s in most locations in the Spokane area. 37 in Deer Park. Looks like we'll be staying in the 50s in Coeur d'Alene and Spokane, but just barely. Here's a look at your forecast for Thursday. Our average high 75. We're heading up to a high of 78. Clear skies, clear air. I'll tell you about the hot weather on the way in the forecast, and then the big crash. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Kirsten.
Thank you, Chris. A man's body was found in the Dishman Hills area last night. Investigators have not released the name of the victim. We do know they found the body while searching for a missing 22-year-old. They were looking for Daniel Pronkin, whose car was found nearby. He was last seen last Wednesday. The search and rescue team found the body along one of the trails, and the medical examiner's office has not released the cause of death. If you have any information that could help investigators, you're asked to call Crime Check, the number right there on your screen, 509-456-2233. Well, for weeks, we've received calls of people having their cars and Ring security cameras stolen. Tonight, a 13 and 14-year-old are in custody in connection to these crimes. New at 6, Rania Kaur explains what we know about the suspects.
Kirsten, police confirm a 13-year-old and 3 14-year-olds would taunt homeowners through Ring doorbell cameras, trying to rip the devices from walls and get away in stolen Kia or Hyundais. According to court documents, the 4 teens would post the stolen cars online from across Spokane and Spokane Valley. It's a national trend that hit an all-time high in Spokane County last month.
It was surely going out and committing acts of almost terror on the community, from the way they're driving, the way the recklessness of it was just put everybody at danger.
2 weeks ago, the Spokane Police Department and the Spokane County Sheriff's Office formed the Kia Hyundai Auto Theft Task Force. While the Spokane Police Department says they've arrested one group, they believe there are others in our area. Since their arrest, Spokane police say the number of car thefts in Spokane and Spokane County have dropped significantly. I'll have more details about the arrest, as well as the message Spokane Police Department has for parents. That's all coming up tonight on 4 News Nightside at 11. In studio, Rania Kaur, 4 News Now.
Rania, thank you. Students in Medico Lake are juggling schoolwork with the traumatic experience of the Gray Fire. How the school district is supporting families right now after the break. More than 50 students in the Medical Lake School District are now juggling between schoolwork and the traumatic experience of the Gray Fire. The district's Wellness Center wants parents to know there are resources available for needs. Peter Choi explains why parents say these resources in the district are important for families who've been affected by the wildfire.
Dealing with natural disaster like wildfire can be difficult for many adults, but for some students, it could be harder. I spoke with mom who sent her child to Hella Elementary School, and she says having resources like mental health support are a huge relief for both parents and students, especially during the beginning of the school year.
We were at a level 0 on the day that this fire started for a long time, and then we just suddenly went to a level 3 evacuation.
A scary situation of leaving everything behind. Nikki Bauman had to evacuate the area immediately with her 10-year-old son.
An interesting experience, and I learned a lot about what maybe to be prepared for.
Thankfully, her family didn't lose her home in the fire, but she was worried about her son's traumatic experience with the wildfire as he was returning to school.
Like a lot of the kiddos were so worried about their own friends, and they had seen, and coming back in for the first time into town and seeing all the trees gone and the burned, and just really the realization of that.
To support students and families in the school district, the district's Wellness Center has become a resource hub.
When you're going through situations, especially like this where you don't have a playbook, to have somebody that can just help you find those answers is sometimes the best resource to have when you are at a loss for words or where to go and what to do.
For providing school supplies and bus services and checking on each student at school.
And having their animal to be able to come home to, they're dealing with the worry is, where is my cat? Is my cat still alive? Will there be another fire? Will my friend, be impacted?
The Wellness Center has trained its staff and school counselors to support students that may struggle with both academic and traumatic events.
Resources that they put together really allowed us to just have a one local place to go, and we knew contact these people here, and it just took some of the guessing out of it and put some control into a place that felt pretty out of control.
In Medical Lake, Peter Choi, 4 News Now.
And a damage assessment form is now available for anyone impacted by the Gray or Oregon Road fires. Officials say this form will help determine if you have insurance coverage and what your individual needs might be going forward. Right now on KXLY.com.
Heading to the fair for dinner, perhaps? Well, it is going to be warm this evening early, but we're going to cool down quickly into the 60s as the evening goes on. I will be back with your 7-day forecast. Plus, in the next half hour, tell you how your kid could get into the fair free on Sunday. Oh, it is a pretty evening, but my goodness, that sunset is early. It's almost 7 o'clock on the sunset right now, so we're getting close. 74 in Coeur d'Alene right now, 75 degrees in Spokane. We'll be mostly clear tonight. 52 in Spokane, but we'll be down in the 40s in the outlying areas. 78 for a high tomorrow with sunny skies. So cool, clear nights, warm, sunny days, and our sunny days are going to get even warmer. Here's our weather pattern starting off at the current time. We have got a northwesterly flow that is going to be replaced by a building ridge of high pressure that's really going to assert itself Friday and into Saturday, with our temperatures more than 10 degrees above average by Saturday. We do have some changes coming, rather dramatic ones, on the way for next week. If you are anxious to try on some fall fashions or get that fall feeling in the air, it will be here very soon. Here's a look at your temperature trend over the next 7 days. This black line is average. We're going from well above average, 87 on Saturday, more than 10 degrees above average, to below average. We'll be down in the mid 60s Tuesday and Wednesday, and it looks like that trend is going to continue with growing confidence that our extended forecast, 8 to 14 days, getting awfully close to the end of September, below average temperatures. In the 7-day forecast, I think we have enough clouds. We're not going to need to be concerned about freezes or frosts, but we're going to be watching those overnight lows very closely as we get into the end of September. And believe me, we will make a big deal out of it if there's any tomatoes to be covered or any other precautionary measures as we get closer to the end of the growing season. Overnight lows tonight will be down in the 40s and 50s, as I showed you earlier in the broadcast, even the upper 30s in some of the outlying areas. Deer Park, Blanchard, the usual suspects. High temperatures tomorrow will be running above average, just a little bit above average, and then we get a lot above average. 84 Friday, 87 Saturday. Clouds begin increasing the second part of the day on Sunday. Still a pretty day with a high of 83. Then we really cool down. 71 on Monday. I did have a 20% chance of showers on Monday. Yesterday, I took that off. It's looking less and less likely. Maybe a sprinkle, could get a little bit breezy, but that is subject to change. This is a work in progress. I'm feeling quite confident about the temperatures, but stay tuned. We'll keep you updated here or on the 4 News Now First Alert weather app about the possibility of any precipitation. In the next half hour, I'm going to have some Wildlife Wednesday photos, Kirsten.
Yay, I love Wildlife Wednesday. Thank you, Chris. And more weather news here. For the first time ever, we have a picture of how summer in Spokane was impacted by climate change. New at 6 meteorologist Matt Gray shows us the day-by-day change.
As the Earth warms, temperatures that were rare in a time before climate change will become more common over time. It's pretty simple to understand, but it's a lot harder for us to measure it. That is where the Climate Central Group and their Climate Shift Index comes in. Using computers, they've simulated a world without the added carbon dioxide and the warmer temperatures that it causes. By comparing this to what's actually happening in the real world, we can get an idea of when any particular day was more likely, less likely, or wasn't influenced at all by climate change. And here are the results for this past summer from June 1st to August 31st. 29 days were influenced by climate change. 23 of those were more likely to happen, and 6 of those, or rather 5, were less likely. Not every hot day or cool day had a detectable influence, which goes to show you that in many cases, climate change tends to hide in the background of our weather rather than sticking out like a sore thumb. But you look on the chart here and there's nothing subtle about this past August. From August 15th to August 18th, the Climate Shift Index was at a 3 or higher. It peaked at the top of the scale at 5 on the 16th. These temperatures 3 to 5 times more likely because of climate change, according to this research. The combination of extremely warm lows and 100 plus highs on the 15th and 16th, well, those were leading to temperatures an average of 14 degrees warmer at any given hour of the day. So this was not only the hottest week of the year, it also ended up being the most active week of the fire season. And so it's another list of a growing list of examples from the past few years of why extreme temperature spikes are the biggest climate change threat to the inland Northwest going forward.
Health experts are expecting COVID cases to rise this fall. What you can do now to prevent your family from getting sick.
We're on the cusp of a new industrial revolution with enormous promise but a panoply of perils.
A push to regulate AI. Why lawmakers in D.C. say new laws are necessary. Next on 4 News Now at 6. Around the nation, convicted murderer Danilo Cavalcante is now back in custody almost 2 weeks after, you may remember this video of him crab walking up the wall of a Pennsylvania prison. He was taken down by this law enforcement canine named Yoda. He got a minor bite wound and was evaluated by medical personnel at the scene. There had been multiple sightings of Cavalcante, but he was able to slip through police search perimeters, steal a van, change his appearance, and steal a firearm before he was caught. Several tech industry leaders, including Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Tesla's Elon Musk, and Sam Altman, met with U.S. senators for the first of 9 forums intended to address growing concerns over just what AI can do and how it can be used safely. CNN's Karen Kaifa is in Washington, D.C. with a look at what's at stake.
The future is here. Artificial intelligence is rapidly gaining traction, and now the U.S. government is playing catch up to put safeguards in place.
We're on the cusp of a new industrial revolution with enormous promise but a panoply of perils.
Nearly a dozen industry leaders, along with several labor unions, civil rights, and entertainment industry representatives, convened on Capitol Hill Wednesday for a forum intended to chart a path toward comprehensive regulation. On the agenda, ways to harness the benefits of AI.
When it comes to fighting cancers, fighting long-term illnesses and so forth, I think AI has real opportunities.
Along with a number of growing concerns, including job protections, national security, copyright, and defending against doomsday scenarios.
What often keeps me up at night is the effect of AI potentially in displacing millions of American workers.
But Gizmodo AI reporter Thomas Germain says apocalyptic fears are just a distraction from problems AI is already creating, like racial bias and facial recognition software and new ways to spread misinformation.
If we're all worried about the robots taking over, then we're not going to be concerned over these, more boring, mundane issues.
Last week, a bipartisan framework for a European-style regulatory agency was introduced in the Senate, a move lauded by many in the tech industry.
Let's prioritize safety and security, which your framework does.
Though some critics are concerned regulation could stifle innovation, the hope is to get ahead of the tech and keep the industry in check.
Legislation is coming whether the tech companies like it or not.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Inflation continued to rise last month. August hit the largest monthly gain this year, according to the latest report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
If high oil and gasoline prices are sustained, that's something that could spill over into prices for other goods and services.
Experts say while increases in some key areas are slowing down, we're not out of the woods.
Shelter costs are still increasing, but at a slower pace than what we had seen. And food prices have certainly moderated from the outsized pace of the past couple of years. So some signs of progress, but still some trouble spots we have to keep an eye on.
The rise in inflation is roughly in line with economists' expectations. On a month-to-month basis, prices rose 0.6% in August, compared with 0.2% gain in July. The community remembers Spokane activist Sandy Williams a year after her death. Hear from those close to her coming up.
Live from downtown Spokane, this is 4 News Now at 6:30.
Everyone 6 years and older is now eligible for the brand new COVID-19 booster, even if you've never been vaccinated before. With fall right around the corner, COVID-19, flu, and RSV infections are expected to rise. Tonight at 6:30, Bronte Siratsky joins us in studio with what experts recommend to protect ourselves against all three of these viruses.
Well, fall might be around the corner, but Providence says it's already starting to see an uptick in COVID cases and hospitalizations. It's why doctors recommend everyone get vaccinated for COVID-19, flu, and some for RSV.
We'll see higher rates of transmission of COVID in the winter than we would around the summer.
As it gets colder and we gather for the holidays, it's a lot easier to catch the flu, COVID, and for some age groups, RSV.
A lot of people heard the term triple-demic that was out last winter season. The combination of RSV infection and influenza infection as well as COVID infection.
Experts say our best defense against all of these are vaccines. But with updated vaccines coming out, who should get them and when?
People that have had fairly severe infection in the past really need to consider getting this new vaccine to help keep them as protected as we can. And really, it's a good idea for everybody.
Even if you've never been vaccinated, you're eligible for these new boosters. Dr. Getz says that COVID has mutated so much since 2020 that previous vaccines could be ineffective against this new variant.
Without this booster, could really be looking at a pretty ugly infection again without the protection.
He says to get those COVID shots now and get those other vaccines pretty soon.
So October is probably a good time for influenza vaccine. And then if you're a candidate for the new RSV vaccine, that's probably a decent time to consider that as well. But for the COVID vaccine, now's a great time if you're going to get vaccinated.
If you recently had COVID, Dr. Getz says to wait 90 days to get the updated booster. And if not, he says it's completely safe to get not just your COVID shot, but also your flu shot all in one go. And one more tip, as more people gather for the holidays, immunocompromised people or those with an increased risk of illness might want to keep masks on hand and mask up as necessary. Live in studio, Bronte Sorotsky, 4 News Now.
Thank you, Bronte. Moderna says its experimental flu vaccine has a stronger immune response than what's currently on the market. Moderna says that in a phase 3 study, it shows increased immunity against 4 strains of the flu virus. The company is now moving towards what it hopes will be approval from federal regulators. Moderna is racing against its competitor Pfizer to bring mRNA technology to flu vaccines. It's already testing the technology in other respiratory virus vaccines, including RSV and COVID. Both Moderna and Pfizer plan to pursue plans to combine COVID mRNA shots with vaccines for flu and RSV.
Well, the cold and flu season is on the way, but we have more summer weather in our forecast. Gorgeous sunset right now, which is coming right up just after 7 o'clock. Here are 4 things to know about your weather. Cool, clear nights, definitely feels like fall in the mornings, but warm, sunny days, and they are going to get warmer. We'll be in the 80s starting Friday and continuing through Sunday. We do have a cool down on the way in the 7-day forecast. Our high temperatures today were running just a little above average. We were in the mid 70s in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, as well as Pullman. It was 80 today in Grand Coulee and 83 in Omak. We're going to be in similar territory tomorrow, perhaps just a little bit warmer. Tomorrow morning's lows will be down in the 40s and 50s. We may slip down into the 30s in some of the outlying areas, including Deer Park as well as Blanchard. Thursday's high temperatures, as I mentioned, just a little bit warmer than today by maybe a degree or 2, a lot of 70s and 80s, and then our warming trend really takes off from there. So enjoy a very pleasant day tomorrow. Blue skies, sunshine, light winds, good air quality, and that high of 78. I'll be back with your 7-day forecast and some Wildlife Wednesday photos in just a few minutes. Kirsten.
Thank you, Chris. Today, the Carl Maxey Center is helping the community remember Sandy Williams by celebrating her birthday. Sandy Williams was a beloved Spokane activist and the founder of the Carl Maxey Center. Williams tragically died in that float plane crash last September. A year later, the community remembers her legacy. 4 News Now's Allison Martinez has the story.
Today is all about Sandy and her legacy. I'm here at the Carl Maxey Center where celebrations in Sandy's honor have been taking place all day long. Friends, supporters, partners, and more are all here making it possible. Happy birthday
You know, Sandy loved to celebrate. She loved to dance, she loved to laugh, she loved to smile. And so we are hoping to carry on her legacy by having a great time.
Today, the community came together to remember Sandy by celebrating her birthday at the Carl Maxey Center. To Verla Spencer, Sandy was a good friend and an inspiration.
I still grapple with her loss. She was that mentor that you were able to call for anything, anytime, any day.
Sandy is remembered for countless acts of advocacy. One especially remembered today was her dedication for providing legal assistance to unrepresented people of color. In April, the Carl Maxey Center introduced the Sandy Williams Justice Center Drop-In Clinic. In just 5 months, the clinic has given free legal advice and resources to over 327 unrepresented people.
There was a young gentleman that came in that received services, and when he left, he was like in tears. He said, "I've never been in a place where I felt listened to, where I have felt like this is a place of belonging for me, and I left with the help that I needed."
Those close to Sandy say that they think she would be proud of the Carl Maxey Center's status today, but say there's still work to be done.
Sandy would say it's not enough, and you need to double down. And you need to be more focused.
She would be proud of the work that is being done in her absence. However, I know that she would say we have a long way to go.
Reporting in Spokane, Allison Martinez, 4 News Now.
Also new tonight, House Republicans' impeachment inquiry into President Biden is now underway. Speaker Kevin McCarthy alleging the president fostered a, quote, culture of corruption involving his family. But House Republicans have found no concrete evidence of any wrongdoing by President Biden, even though they've been investigating him for the last 9 months. The announcement causing a ripple effect throughout Capitol Hill. Some Democrats labeling the impeachment inquiry a, quote, sham.
They have spent all year investigating the president. That's what they've spent all year doing, and have turned up with no evidence. None.
We don't have the president's bank statements. We don't have Hunter Biden's bank statements. Providing information like that would answer the question.
One potential response to the inquiry by President Biden could be that during the Trump administration, the Justice Department issued an opinion that impeachment inquiries are invalid unless authorized by a full vote of the House. That opinion is considered binding unless a new one is issued by the current Attorney General. The Seattle Mariners and Los Angeles Angels went down to the wire. The thrilling finish that kept Seattle in the playoff hunt coming up in sports.
It is time for Wildlife Wednesday, and Mark Vogt is back in the rotation. Our longtime Wildlife Wednesday contributor, gone for 4 months on an Alaska adventure. If you've been on my Facebook page, you saw that he sent us many bear photos, Kodiak grizzlies and bears all over the place. He gets home for 2 or 3 days, and what does he find? A bear. Actually, this bear kind of found him. Mark says he was out in the woods, and the bear either heard or smelled him and went looking for him. That is my worst nightmare, I have to say. Never found Mark. He said he held real still, except for his shutter finger, and snapped this picture, and then he lost interest, the bear, not Mark, and moved on. Welcome back, Mark. Here is a dramatic photo from Susie Corpay, and I have gotten many just tremendous photos from our beloved photographers of osprey and kokanee. It is that time of year. The osprey are getting those kokanee right out of the lakes. But what I did not know, and Susie told me, is that photographers come from all over the country to take pictures of this particular phenomenon that happens every fall, which is really cool. I can't imagine any of them know how to take photos like our locals, though. Pat Woolweber shared this photo, a white rabbit in Minnehaha. And I don't know where the magician is that goes with this. Dad jokes. She said there were actually 3 of these rabbits and captured this photo. I love it, sitting in that pretty green grass. And finally, from Jenna and Ted Thornton, the mama and baby moose have been hanging around their place all summer, looking healthy. Occasionally, the bull moose drops by too, but they must have some good eating there in Pinehurst, Idaho. Very quiet weather. We have a building ridge of high pressure over the region. That is keeping most of the clouds out, and that is going to bring a warming trend in our forecast, heading up to 87 on Saturday, and then we dive down into the 60s Tuesday and Wednesday, and it looks like that trend is going to continue through the end of September. A lot of sunshine over the next several days. We'll see the clouds increasing late in the day on Sunday. Still a beautiful day on Sunday, and I do have an idea for you on what to do. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. And then we have some cooler weather ahead next work week, including some chilly mornings at the bus stop down in the 40s.
Yeah, that's very important, because even though you have the layers, you got to start with a coat some days.
Yes, you do. And it has been our longtime mission here at 4 News Now to make sure that every child in the Inland Northwest has a coat, and you all have been a huge part of that. Now, Coats for Kids does not kick off officially until next month, but as is our tradition, we are collecting coats at the Spokane Interstate Fair this Sunday. If you bring a new or gently used warm winter coat, you can get a free admission for kids 13 and under. 1 coat equals 1 admission. You got 10 kids, bring 10 coats.
There we go.
We'll give you 10 tickets and maybe give you back a coat.
I know. Well, and you can bring a gently used coat, and a lot of kids grow out of them in 1 year.
Yes,
or they
absolutely.
have multiple. The grandparents gave one, you got one.
That happens too. You buy one, they don't like it.
Right.
But we will make sure that we find a kid who does like it. That is our mission here for 38 years.
Wow.
We've been doing that.
Yeah, it's a very successful campaign. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Oh, here's another fun idea for the kids. Get your diamond pickaxe ready, because a new Minecraft exhibit opens this Saturday at the MAC. The game was originally released in 2009, and since then, it has become one of the most popular video games of all time. The 6,000 square foot exhibit features life-sized creatures and backdrops from the game, and the exhibit was originally created at the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle. Here's what the MAC director had to say after experiencing the exhibit for himself back in 2020.
Minecraft is this extraordinary phenomenon, and we have so many players and participants in Spokane. This would be a wonderful thing for our region.
You'll have until December 31st to experience the exhibit for yourself. Here's a look at ABC's primetime lineup tonight.
Cougs versus everybody. That's the motto for the Washington State football team. Welcome into sports. I'm Julian Minnesome. WSU has adopted an underdog identity, but that will not be the case this week. The number 23 ranked Cougars are expected to be heavy favorites to beat Northern Colorado. It's the first time Washington State has been ranked since 2019. All of a sudden, the Cougars have gone from the hunters to the hunted. Head coach Jake Dickert says he isn't a fan of ranking teams this early in the season, but the Cougars will need to bring their A game. Otherwise, they can end up on the wrong end of an upset.
It is cool. It means a lot in recruiting. It shows the hard work that our guys have put in the dark, and to get recognized for that, I do think is important. Okay, but doesn't mean anything. I want to be ranked at the end.
Our preparation has to stay the same. Our work ethic has to stay the same. And our will to compete has to stay the same. If we let one ranking go to our head, we'll end up being not ranked anymore.
Washington State and Northern Colorado kick off at 2 o'clock on Saturday in Pullman. If the Seattle Mariners want to make the playoffs, they'll have to beat some of the best teams in baseball. The Mariners have a daunting final stretch of the season against the Dodgers, Astros, and Rangers. So when they play a team like the Angels, that's missing Shohei Ohtani, their best player, they have to take advantage. Final game of the series against the Angels. The team split the first two games. Luis Castillo on the mound for the Mariners, which is usually a good thing, but Brett Phillips takes Castillo deep right here, and Seattle falls behind. Now, Mariners still down by a run in the fifth inning. Cal Raleigh, they call him the big dumper, and he dumps one into right field. Ty France trying to get home for Seattle. Now, the throw beats France to the plate, but the umpire calls him safe. Let's take another look at that one. France somehow avoids the tag, and the Mariners tie the game. Now, same inning. Mariners still threatening to score. It'll be Teoscar Hernandez, and Hernandez is going to laser this one to second base. Brendan Drury can't handle it. That scores a run, and the Mariners take the lead. Now it's up to the bullpen to close it out for Seattle. Angels with a runner on first in the 9th inning. Phillips takes off to steal second. Raleigh throws him out at second base. Now that would potentially end the game. The umpires would have to take another look at that one in the review. But based on the replay, they got him by a hair. Mariners win this one. 3-2 is the final. Seattle still sits ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays for that final wild card playoff spot. The Blue Jays are losing right now, so if that score holds, the Mariners will have a full game advantage over Toronto in the standings. And the Mariners will take on the Dodgers for a 3-game series starting tomorrow night. That'll wrap us up for sports.
Thank you, Julian. With the busy summer travel season behind us, air travel prices are falling fast, especially international flights, according to travel experts. CNN's Jen Sullivan has a closer look and tips to find great deals on flights.
Airfare is falling this fall, and travel experts say now is a great time to book air travel, especially if you're looking to travel abroad this autumn and beyond.
Flight prices over to Europe are actually about to come down in a pretty significant way here as we get into the fall and into 2024.
According to travel app Hopper, autumn fares are 9% less expensive than last year and 10% cheaper than in 2019. Ticket prices for September and October are 29% cheaper than the average prices for peak domestic summer travel. And international ticket prices to some destinations have come down by a similar amount. Travel expert Scott Kai says lower prices are driving up demand among people looking to visit popular international destinations in Europe and South America.
Number of Americans traveling down to Mexico, 20% higher than it was in 2019. The number of Americans flying over to Europe, 15% higher than it was in 2019.
So, how to find a great airfare deal this fall? Kai's has these 3 tips. 1. Use a price monitoring tool to get real-time updates and get notified when prices are at the lowest for your trip. 2. Consider flying during the middle of the week instead of on the weekends. That increases your chances of finding a cheaper flight. And 3. For overseas travel, consider flying over Thanksgiving. Kai says it's the hidden best week for international travel.
Especially if you've got the week off work, if the kids have the week off school, and if you're interested in those Christmas markets.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Coming up tonight on Nightside, a 13 and 14-year-old are in custody in connection to a crime spree involving Ring doorbell cameras. That and more at 11.
I think you're going to need just about every layer in your closet over the course of this 7-day forecast, all the way up to 87 for a high on Saturday. But we've got some very cool mornings ahead, down in the 40s next week with temperatures in the 60s. Maybe not everything in your closet, not the heavy coats, but everything from shorts and t-shirts to long pants and sweaters, maybe a sweatshirt too, at the bus stop on those mornings next week.
Maybe even a swimsuit on Saturday.
That too. Do you have any ideas?
Sunscreen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.